Home brewing is about serving that ideal, to craft something that's specifically tailored toward what you think. Every enthusiast has their own reason of getting into coffee and really loving coffee. Whether it be just enjoying the flavors, enjoying the variety, whether it be just getting into something that has this huge history and culture. For me, it was about technique, because I've always been obsessed with technique. Obviously, I love coffee, and I've always loved coffee, but what drew me into being an enthusiast was how everything worked. Because every intention is driven by a specific tool and technique to deliver something exacting and precise, and something that's original as well. When I began researching just basic extraction theory, I wanted to isolate every variable. So whether it was temperature, whether it was hydration, whether it was agitation, all of these things were easy to measure, except one thing, which was agitation. Pouring water with a kettle is kind of a double-edged sword. We need to deliver agitation, we need to deliver hydration, we need to saturate evenly, because that's the best way of getting everything out of coffee at once. But then we realized, how about if we didn't want everything? So how do we control this everything? What is everything? Because sometimes you get things in coffee that you don't like. So if there's a way to throttle everything that we do like from everything that we don't like, then we have more control. This is an early alpha prototype that I had, and it's essentially just to control the effects of agitation. When I started playing around with it, I noticed a heightened level of clarity in my coffee. So I started to learn that our perception of clarity wasn't just inherent in what we tasted, but how we tasted it. So whenever we eat or drink anything, the particles that are stuck to our tongues affect the way that we taste. So that's when it dawned on me that Melodrip was actually allowing us to control how many of these particles were in our coffee. We realized that for home brewers, every environment's different. We have different tools, we have different techniques. We use different coffee, we use different water. So we knew that we had to get this into people's hands. So in early 2016, I got together with a couple friends and we decided to make the early prototype of what was to become the final version of Melodrip. We're a team made up of a home brewer,
a product designer,
an engineer,
and our mission is to make tools that empower brewers with new abilities. And our first installment is Melodrip. Melodrip is a one-of-a-kind patent-pending tool specifically designed to deliver unparalleled clarity to pour-over coffee. It's comprised of a BPA-free, heat-tolerant copolyester that transforms any pour into a gentle sprinkle, elevating your kettle into the perfect pour-over device.
When we first started this project, Ray came to me with a couple of these different prototypes. A really simple plastic dish with some holes drilled into it. We realized we could control it with the different types of nozzles. We played around with the profile of the nozzle as well to prevent water from running into each other. The spacing between the holes was important for us as well. Too close, and again, we would have one large stream.
When designing Melodrip, our focus was to create something that was easy to use and something that didn't get in the way of the brewing process. So experimenting with different shapes to see what was the ideal situation when you're brewing. Larger angles, experimented with faceted edges on the handle. And we chose this angle, which is just a slight angle to give enough clearance from the steam and the water as you're pouring. A knurling texture that really just gave a good grip. The idea was to have something that was easy to use, non-intrusive, just something that doesn't get in the way when you're brewing your coffee.
Manual brewing is about making decisions based off of what you're seeing while you're brewing. So being able to remove the shower after any pour is an advantage to the brewer. Simply move Melodrip to the location that you want to saturate and pour as you like. If we had this attached to a kettle, or if we had it as a stationary device, it'd be difficult to specifically target certain areas that aren't saturated. So it's very easy to use, it's extremely intuitive in that way, because you're continuously interacting with what you're seeing. This allows you full clarity and full visibility of what's happening during every moment of the pour. When agitating the coffee slurry with a bare kettle, what we're essentially doing is creating a suspension. And what that means is that the smallest particles become suspended in the fluid and don't sink. Now, once suspended in the coffee, these particles make their ways to any of the exit points in the brewer. One pour-over will be performed with the traditional bare kettle method, while the other pour-over will be performed strictly with the Melodrip method. So our samples have been split up, labeled, and thrown into the centrifuge at about 4,000 RPMs for about 5.5 minutes. Here are the two Melodrip samples on the left, and here are the two bare kettle samples on the right. And there's a noticeable difference in the amount of insoluble particles that are left in the coffee. These are essentially 12 milliliter samples each. Now, if you think about how this can be magnified in a 240 milliliter brew, that increase is pretty significant. So when we eventually got to sending these out to all the beta testers, we sent them out to home brewers, enthusiasts, competitors, baristas, cafe owners. The response was incredible. We immediately gained interest from major media outlets, not just from the US, but from all over the world. And the public embraced this with open arms. We have competitors using this for competition. We have home brewers that have already integrated this into their daily routines. We're finding different ways of using it and discovering nuances in their coffee that they haven't tasted before. And this incredible support and response for the coffee community is what gave us the confidence to eventually move forward and take this to Kickstarter. So we have production-ready molds, manufacturing partners already lined up. All we need is your help and support to finally deliver Melodrip to the rest of the world and continue this path of exploration and improvement in brewing coffee. Thank you.